whether we can trade the retracement.
Over 1 million employment change in the Canadians. Unemployment rate only went up by 0.4. That's not too bad.
No, it was the States. Over 6 million.
6.6 million. Yeah.
Unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, it's and this is the huge challenge. You know, like buying the stock market here goes against everything that I believe and everything that is coming out. But the Fed are just pumping what they can into it.
Did you listen to their announcement, or did it happen?
I did. Yes, I did. So they're going to be pumping 2.3 trillion US dollars into the system, and we're seeing really off the back of that S&P rally, Dow Jones rally, FTSE rally. Looks like the dollar is weakening. Gold, wow, look at gold, 1725. It's just way up now. Just the and I guess that's the thing, if the virus continues, forget the fear, forget the inflation, everything else, the dollar's just going to weaken. It will continue to be probably buoyed up by Fed stimulus and Fed action. And if the Fed continues to take action, then what's the dollar going to do but weaken? It can't do anything else here, can it really?
Well, you know what I think, mate? I think it's once it does start to weaken, it's going to go a long way.
Yeah. Well, we got
hopeful.
I think we're going to have to take, I'm just going to show everybody my screen. Good, what would it be now? I suppose good afternoon to everybody now. Sorry, but Jeff and I are still finishing a conversation we started
Having a little
off
chinwag, aren't we?
Having a little chinwag. How you doing, John? How you doing, SF and Ravinder? Great to be back again. We're going to have, this FTSE is going to be difficult not to trade long. And it's difficult now because it's, the price is elevated. So if we can get in a little bit lower, then all the better. But I hate buying the breakout to the upside. That would be horrible. But we've just had a Fed announcement that they are going to be putting $2.3 trillion into the market, and it's difficult now to justify. Really,
printing press must be running hot, mate.
Oh man, I mean, it's just a lot of the story is about liquidity, and they are providing as much as that they possibly can. But it's there are obviously conflicting views, and this is where the fundamental aspect becomes difficult. Definitely still a bear. I'm definitely looking for downside. My challenge is that I don't think it's coming really in the next in this particular session, but. With the weekend coming up as we got the Fed just pumping in.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky, isn't it? It really.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is, and the only reason I'm even considering taking a trade long is just to cover for some of my shorts, because I don't really want to take them off. I want to leave them where they are, because my overall view is that this market's coming down, but I want to cover them a little bit and make sure that if it pops up, then I'm pretty much flat as it goes higher. So if I was advising somebody who was about to take their first trade of what to do, I would say sit away, and don't bother with it. The one thing if you're desperate to get involved, you may as well. There's no point in trading here. You may as well just put a stop order at the top. If it comes back, we can change what we do, but it could float around here or even fail. It could still fail. It's still difficult to know exactly which way the markets are going to perceive what's going on. They might they might take the unemployment claims and start to recognize how weak this market is and not appreciate what the Fed's doing, or there might be enough confidence in the Fed's actions to take this market higher. But if we're going to trade at this price, we're too close to a potential breakout area. So we may as well just put in a buy stop above the area and a stop below the daily pivot and see what happens, which is what I'm going to do, actually. I'm just going to put a buy stop in. Probably it's going to have to be probably 5,800, I think, is going to be the only answer for me here, mate. So I'm going to do that. I think that would hopefully keep me as safe as possible.
Ravinder Trump said he used to hate OPEC, not anymore. What OPEC's really good organization now. Everyone says they're really good. In fact, they're a really, really good organization. Super good.
Oh, he loves him. Trump is loving him, is he?
Apparently, I don't know. I didn't hear it, but Ravinder's telling me that's what he said.
That's what he's all about, though, isn't he? You know, that's Trump all over, really. It's you know, slates the people that are against you, and if people do what you want them to do, then talk about how amazing they are.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to put a stop entry. I'll put in a stop entry at 5,800. Sorry, 5,800 on the futures market here, which is just about what's this high here? The high there is 57.94, so it's about 57.95. Let's call it 5 pips above the highest point here, allowing for the spread and just a little bit of extra room to the upside. So I'm 5 pips above the top end of the bar. Now the reason I've said it like that is that if you want to trade that long, then you're looking at the UK 100. Now I wouldn't advise you trade that long. I'm literally just doing that to cover my shorts so I can stay in them. The other alternative, obviously, if the market comes down to the monthly pivot, we can enter here instead. This is only if it doesn't pull back at all. But the likelihood that we go higher at this stage is certainly there. But as you say, mate, what a challenge this is. I might even have to leave the thing there, because if it's going to explode, at least it does explode. If it comes down here, there's still a chance it could turn around and go down. But this is definitely a challenge today. But the S&P is starting to stretch his legs to the upside. So I think the stock market probably does stretch higher from here. Looking at the S&P, look at this on the S&P. S&P is now going beyond its higher points here. That's on the hourly. You can see on the 15 maybe a little bit clearer. That's the highest point. So the S&P's making a fresh high here. The Dow Jones Industrials, same story. So you look around that. Let's have a look at the dollar yen as well to see what the barometer is in the opposite direction. Maybe a little bit stuck there. You wouldn't suggest that the dollar yen would be the best place to put your money. If you're bullish on anything, it'd probably be the Aussie yen.
Well, at the moment, dollar yen, it's a race to the bottom. The yen is now coming off, and the dollar's coming off as well. So yeah, that's why there's a stalemate there.
Well, the Aussie yen is pushing higher as well. So the market is incredibly keen at these levels. So the shorts have to be covered. I don't think we got too much of an option but to do that right now. So that is what I've done. I've just covered the shorts, and we'll see what happens from here on in. We got FTSE 100 longer term time frames that are showing that we are breaking through this level as well. That's at around about the 5,800. So breaks through that level, it's probably a little bit of open water to the next level. Whether it gets up there by the end of the day, I don't know, but it could cause a pretty significant rally now to the upside. But this market is looking incredibly keen. Incredibly keen to go long here, mate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, have you got anything you want to look at?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm still in most of these positions, and because the Aussie's now flying, that makes me very happy, of course. Let me try and get the right screen up. There we go. Pound Aussie looks like it might even get to our target. Well, our takeoff target. We'll get most of our position off at this point. If we get there, we've been waiting for that all week at 197.45. I think is the level that I'll try and get most of this off the table. I mean, we're not there yet, but if we're fortunate enough to get there, that's exactly what I will do. Then I'll wait for a break and retest of that area. I mean, in the meantime, we're going to get a bounce here. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. So I'm going to leave my stops where it is, which is at entry. But that if we do get here, it'll mean we bank twice, and we certainly won't lose on this, that's for sure. My absolute target is a long way from here. It's down in the boondocks here somewhere. but there'll be more than one opportunity to get into that as we go down. So I will be taking profit at the support level that I just pointed out to you. That's for sure. But I will leave a small portion open to take it pretty much all the way if it's going to go all the way. Then I'll look to get back in as a break and retest here. Same thing here. So we might be scaling into this a few times. Well, you know, we've got a lot of work to do before we get to there. Euro Aussie, exactly the same scenario, going beautifully, looking fantastic. Really no intention to take much off the table until we get to here.
Oh, that's a cracker. That's probably my favorite, mate. I love that one.
Yeah, nice trade. Like to see them every week, wouldn't you? Those sort of trades.
Always the challenge.
Yep. So we're about 200 pips yet to this level, which is where I'll be taking next profit. Again, we have stops at entry here, so we can only win. And the next level is that one there, around about 165, something. Can't even read it. Goodness me. Am I getting old, or is it just the red? 165.90. Let's call it 166, shall we? That will be my next exit point. Pound CAD, I'm now out of pound CAD. Our trailing stop was hit when we came back above this candle here. So I'm no longer in that trade. No intention of changing that either. I'm really not looking for too many new, in fact, I'm not looking for new trades. It's pretty much just trade management for me right now as we get into the long weekend. CAD Swiss, actually I'm on the wrong account here. CAD Swiss is there. Gee, we've been patient with this one. We really have been patient with this one. I've now got stops just below entry to cover this swing. Entry was there. This has got huge potential again, but it's very reliant, like a lot of the trades I've been in this week, very reliant on what oil does. And if oil is to now rally, and I've got to say, I can see signs that that might be the case, but we're a long way from home here. The monthly pivot is still holding sway. We can see on the daily chart, the OPEC meetings and probably Donald Trump as well interfering in here, but we've got a perfect doji sitting there at the moment. There will be a breakout here today, I believe, but which way I've got absolutely no idea. It's a bit of a 50-50 call, but I do like the structure. There's a higher low sitting here after a double, triple bottom, call it whatever you like. The only trouble for me trading that would be the monthly pivot bang in the way, and therefore I prefer to go with the CAD, which is reliant very much on what oil does anyway. So that's why I'm in so many CAD positions this week. CAD Swiss, as I said, I think that's got huge potential. I think we can probably look at an area up around here, 72.75. That's another 400 odd pips away from where we are, and we're already strongly in profit with that one as well. Placed a weird trade today. As I said, I'm now out of pound CAD. We've gone beyond that high. Placed a weird trade today, which I'm just about to cancel by the look of it, because if this high is taken out, I'm short here, short the NASDAQ, believe it or not. Never have been, maybe never will be again if this doesn't trigger. But it looks like the stop loss, the entry was down here, by the way. So it looks like that high has now been taken out, so I will cancel that order on the NASDAQ. Anybody?
Well, they don't look like they're coming down today, mate. Markets look like they are well and truly on their way at this stage, anyway. You know, the reaction after the Fed announcement was pretty positive. Yep,
still don't believe it, but you know, it is what it
crazy,
is. I'm not going to trade against it at this point. But gee whiz, if we do get back underneath these highs, you'll be seeing me trying to find something to trade short. I don't trade the indices, so I'm not saying for 1 second it'll be one of these, but it'll be a currency that I think will benefit by it. As far as the rest are concerned, CAD Yen, man, look at that, just taken off. We're in this as well. I think those of you who, oh wow, I can't remember where I took this trade. But you can here, it was back here. You can see the entry. That's like when Monday we took this trade in the afternoon show, Ash, I think. And we've had to put up with a little bit of consolidation since then, but this looks like it's hungry as well. And as I said before, the yen, finally the yen's coming off. It's taken a while. It was getting fairly obvious that the yen was going to weaken around about Tuesday, when Abe was screaming at people, "Give me some money, give me some money." They've run out of money in Japan. So I think the SH1T may well have hit the fan in that regard. And we look like we're going to take on this high at least today with CAD yen. So what will I'm actually going to probably wait till the morning and reassess all these positions that I'm still in. What I will do most likely is take a whole chunk of the profit off. If I'm still in profit, that is, I'll take a whole chunk of the profit off and trail my stops very, very tight, I would think. If the market gaps against me over the weekend, then there'll be other opportunities next week. So I'm in a take profit mode right now. I think if I get a run out of these pairs into tomorrow or into the afternoon today in US terms, then I think it's time to take some profit. This one here, Euro Pound, is setting up right now, and we still should be on air in 44 minutes from now. If I've got a candle that looks a little bit like it does now, Euro Pound, this will be an entry long for me. And it should be pretty clear to those of you who know how I trade that this looks very much like a false break of support to me. Very, very dramatic one, I'd have to say. I'm not sure what drove the market down, Euro Pound. I think the pound got a little bit of a kick, and now we're seeing that reverse itself. So will be an entry here if I see the right candle, and that candle has to be bearish and decisive. So that could be our first and maybe even last trade in this session. We'll see. Never say never. Euro yen also taking off. Dollar yen's the only one that isn't. And the reason for that is I'm not sure which one's going to go to the bottom first. And neither is the market. Dollars in my opinion, the dollar's in strife, and certainly the yen's in strife. I've got an order short here. If you're interested in following it, it is on a 4-hour chart. And I'm entering underneath this bar here, which will be a breakout of support. We're just about at that support level again, as you can see. The entry level is 108.59. I'm risking 60 pips on the trade, and I'm going to take first profit at half of that, 30 pips, and I'll get rid of a third of the position there, which is that level there. My second take profit level is here at 107.15-ish, I think it is, which is 145 pips. I'll also get rid of a third at that point. And we will leave the remaining third to go to the bottom of the range. And if we get opportunity to scale into that on the way down, we will also do that. This is pretty much just a classic trade off the top, look for the bottom. That's what I'm doing here. The yen is the issue, because it's weakening and weakening very fast, as I can see it. Any Aussie pair, and I've said this pretty much all week, but in particular this morning when we got new highs yesterday, this became to me a buy the dips. There's one there. I hope you caught it. Aussie Swissy also taken off. Bit tough to take that one, I've got to say, because the untested nature of the daily pivot. And I wouldn't have taken that, although it is one of my preferences, as is Swissy yen, but Swissy yen's already bloody gone, I think. No, not yet. We might be able to catch this yet. I'd much prefer to see the candles up here than come back, take out these highs. But anyway, Aussie CAD is exactly the same. Buy the dips, as I said this morning. Aussie Kiwi, buy the dips. There was a little dip there, but not too much. And finally, Aussie dollar. Well, wow. That's looking really good. That is really looking good. I think we've missed that one today, and we've probably missed all the Aussie pairs. If you're not in them now, I think you need to wait for another pullback. There's a beautiful entry right there. So as far as trades are concerned at the moment, there's only one I want to take, and we've got to wait 41 minutes for that to occur. Everything else is pretty much trade management made at the moment, but obviously if I see something bob up, then we can take a look at it. Speaking of taking a look, how about the pound trade? We have a look at the pound trade.
Yeah, that should have been pretty good. Did you get in long on that one in the end?
Yes, we're in twice long on the pound. However, because we trailed on a 15-minute chart, we only made it to where? I can't remember now.
You're on a stellar run right now, mate.
Beg pardon?
You're on a stellar run at the minute.
Yeah, everything's pretty good, mate. Yeah, as I said before, it's a pretty good trot that we're having. And if this one just goes, it might upset the pound Aussie, but the Aussie's going with it, so no big deal. So we got in here with the breakout trade, and as you can see, it broke out, but it only printed, well, it didn't print any, really. Are we still in this? We must, oh no, we're not. We trailed our stop to here, that's right. So when we get taken in, we need to trail on 15-minute chart 2 bars. So we only got our entry to that, our stop loss to that level, which was a little bit below our entry. And there were no more 2 bars. So we got taken out of that, sadly. Maybe we can have a look at this next week and see if, and there have been 2 of these this week, where maybe even 3, where had we trailed differently, we may have caught the run, the good run. This was another one of them, I think. But we are trading this on a 4-hour chart on this one here, I think. Yep. So that one looks like it does want to go. We've taken our first profit here. Our second profit will be here at 125.67. And I will exit most of the position here at 127.43. Then I'll look for a pullback. And if this does go, I think it's going to take on the highs, frankly. So we will look to scale back into that one as well. So yeah, mate, everything's looking pretty damn good, I've got to say.
Yeah, looking very good. Well, the FTSE still pretty keen to go long here. We got around about 8 minutes before the US market opens up, and just looking across the board, we're just seeing that there's about 90 plus percent of the stocks are now in positive territory. I'll tell you some of the names that are performing as well. Just Eat, the takeaway app, is performing the best at the minute, almost up 10% on the day. But some of these names are very much service sector, which is really very, very cyclical. We got Next, a retail company. They are up around near 7%. Some of the building stocks are up near 7 and 8%. And in fact, yeah, it seems to be sort of that seems to be the main story. It seems to be a lot of the service sector stocks and a lot of the building stocks. So there does seem to be a lot of positivity when it comes down to growth in some respects. The stock's not performing quite as well right now are still some of the other supermarkets that don't offer home delivery, and actually some of the ones that do are slightly negative as well. Just have a look at the banks here. HSBC is the bank that I'm watching so closely at the minute, because you'd think that with the Fed announcement.
Do you want to take the screen, mate?
Yeah, I can do. I mean, it's not really a
okay.
It's not really
Doesn't
something
to
yeah, it's not really something to look at, but really, it's just reporting in. But we can certainly talk about the price action of the FTSE. While we're looking at all this stuff, but effectively the picture here is for upside. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for further upside from this particular point. If we don't get it, I wonder whether we just meander rather than doing anything. But just looking across the board, I'm still looking at the S&P, and the S&P still continues to stretch its legs to the upside and holding that breakout zone currently. Dow Jones Industrials exactly the same. WTI, which is Another one well worth watching. Looks like this one might have turned around a little bit as well. So we got the hourly looking like it's above the 2 pivots at this particular stage. So looking like that might make a grab for the monthly pivot up there. So WCI is looking pretty good. While this is all going on, gold is easing its way back to the highs as well, and I suspect we might even get a breakout on gold, just to I suppose protect some of the buying in the stock market, but by the same token also because the dollar is just weakening quite heavily. Having a look at the VIX as well. The VIX has dipped quite heavily as well. So this is our volatility index, and since the highest point in around about the middle of March, the VIX has continued to move to the downside. So you'll see this happen when the stock market moves in the opposite direction, but it's not looking like there are any buy signals on the VIX. If anything, this is also looking lower. So really, the signals are for further upside.
Have you got DXY chart?
I don't know. I don't.
No,
I don't have that on offer. Now Ravinder was just asking about. No, yeah, I mean, I can get hold of it, but like you, not on this particular platform.
Yeah.
So Ravinder asking about a couple of questions. Is the buy stop a hedge? In my situation, it's a hedge because I've got shorts in the market, but it's not a hedge just because it's a buy stop. If you've got a position, and it's not a classic way to trade the hedge. There are much more, I suppose, conventional ways to trade and use a hedge, but effectively I'm just covering the downside right now. So I will neither make or lose money if the market, well, it doesn't matter where it goes at this particular stage. So I'll just wait until it settles down again, and then make a choice of my selection. But right now, the likelihood is it goes higher, and I've got two choices at that stage. I can either close out my shorts and flip to a long, which means that I am just long, or I can keep my shorts and have a long, which means I'm hedged on the downside. So that's just the way that I personally like to trade. But I wouldn't recommend it to people because it's not something that you'd want to do, is it, Jeff? And I know there's probably many in the company that wouldn't want to do things that way, but it just suits my personality, and that's what trading really ends up being about. There's one thing about your strategy and also about your money management, your approach to money management. So everybody's slightly different.
There's not too many people in the company that trade like I do, I can tell you.
No, there's not. But I guess that's, but I suppose that's the point I'm making, is that everybody will do things.
Everyone's different, mate, and you've got to do things the way you see it.
You've got to do things the way you see it. Yeah, exactly. But the thing about hedging is that the reason it's not for everyone is that it can get very stressful, and it can get quite complicated if you put on a hedge and then the hedge doesn't work out. So if it starts to go in the opposite direction, so it's how you treat the hedge. And really, I have to be honest, it's only experience that has taught me how best to treat a hedge in the market. But it is just something that I do tend to do.
It's like those warnings you see on TV, don't do this at home, guys, if you don't know what you're doing, because it will mess with your head, I can tell you.
Yeah, and it's not even the best way to make money. It's just the best way for me to make money. There are people in the company that are, well, Jeff's had an amazing run actually recently. He's case in point. He's having an amazing run with trading, and Jeff doesn't use the hedging strategy. And I've probably, I think this month, I'm not even up 2% really yet this month, and that's the thing, I'm using this hedging strategy, and I'm not even up 2% so far this month. So it's not necessarily it's the best way to make money. It's just the best way for me to make money, because that's what I understand with the market. That's my approach, and I don't like changing my approach. And I don't particularly like being distracted by other people's approach, because I think there's so much work you can do on yourself, on your approach and your strategy, that that to get distracted by other people's is just exactly that. It's just noise. Certainly people say things that improve my approach, but I won't just all about change it just because somebody else is making money at that particular moment and I'm not. because this is always about the longer term.
I went through a terrible time with that when I was learning. The guy that I was learning from, and it was remote. It was like we are now, in a webinar situation. And for whatever reason, the spreads were different on my bloody charts, and we were trying to trade, by feel, not by numbers or anything like that. And so I got stopped out of this one trade that went 1,000 pips in like a week.
Yeah.
Didn't take long at all. So I lost a truckload of money and he made a shitload of money.
Right.
And I was so peeved, man. I shouted at him. I said, no, you told me this and blah, 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 blah. And I just got so frustrated. And it actually took a counseling session with him for me to understand that shouldn't make the slightest bit of difference to me. And exactly what you've just said rang a huge bell with me. I haven't to this day. And the same thing happened to me when I was a kid. And I know you guys probably don't want to hear this, but it kind of goes to the kind of person that I am, I suppose. We used to play soccer, Australia, football, right? And I don't know, about 7, 8, 9 or something like that. And we were playing a far lesser team, and I hadn't scored a goal. And my next door neighbour, who played beside me in the forward line, he'd scored 4 goals, and he wouldn't give me the ball. So I just screamed off the field, going nuts at this bloke and crying my eyes out. And my grandfather, who was a pro footballer, not a pro rugby league player, he shook me. He said, "You act like that one more time and I will disown you," and blah, 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 blah. So that woke me up. And I, from that moment forward, was a pretty good sport the rest of my life. And from the moment that my mentor in those days at trading gave me exactly the same treatment, I've been very much a person who accepts my fate. I'll put it that way. It's a game that can burn you if you let it, in terms of mental capacity, or it's a game that you can control your emotions and just move on. And once you've done that, you will be a far better trader. There's no question about that.
And the worst thing, Jeff,
sorry about the story, guys.
No, but the interesting thing about this as well is that what I found is the more I listen to other people, the more mistakes I make. Now, that's not to say that if you are learning from somebody, it's a completely different thing. But if you are effectively talking to one of your colleagues or one of your equals, of course they will all have a different approach. Now, there's certain things that you say, and it's not you're not saying them to say, well, you should look at the trade this way. But there's certain things that you say that I'll think, that's kind of nice, and then I'll introduce it. But I'll kind of introduce it when in my own time, when it filters in, we have the way then, so I'll understand it in my own language almost.
Yes.
And I suppose really that's a lesson for everybody out there as well. In some respects, we're trying to help you through, but we are mindful not to be absolute about our statements. We're trying to sort of say, look, this is the way that you can approach it. And just to kind of give you some help in and just to shed some light on a way that you could think about it. But it's got to make sense to you, because if it doesn't, then of course probe us for some more clarity. But if you understand the point that's being made, but it doesn't really appeal to the way that you view the market, or that you want to view the market, I would just put it in the bin and not worry about it, because it's incredibly distracting. Hearing people make a judgment of your particular trade. If you got a particular trade, you're trading the Aussie yen, or you're trading the dollar yen, or the FTSE, or the S&P, or Aussie CAD. You've got a particular view, and then someone says, well, how about this? And you sort of it's not to say that you would ignore it if you hadn't spotted it, but you may have considered that and gone, yeah, but that's just not the way that I do things. So it's difficult.
You might be thinking under your breath, oh, this bloke's a tosser. But at the end of the day, you don't say that to, even to a person you've been trading with for years. You don't say
Yeah,
you're a tosser. You say, well, here's how I would approach that. But
yeah,
that doesn't mean that's how you should approach that. And oftentimes I say, when I'm actually talking to you guys, I say, look, you've got to do this. And as soon as I say that, I correct myself and say, well, no, you can do what you like, but here's what I have to do. And I think that's the same person I've just spoken to you about. It's because I've been there. I understand that you should not be in a position where you're being told to do something. You should be in a position where, okay, yeah, that rings a bell. That makes sense.
yeah,
I might see if that works for me.
yeah,
If,
yeah.
but as you say, Ash, if it doesn't, just throw it in the bin.
Throw it in the bin. Yeah, ignore it. Well, we got a little bull flag here appearing on the 15-minute chart on the FTSE 100, just able to stretch its legs up right now. And the S&P just come back to retest its breakout zone, so still looking pretty bullish on the S&P. You can see here that it's just testing this area and attempting to go higher. We've got Fed Chair Powell at 3 o'clock. And it's possible that the market needs to wait for that. But all he's really probably likely to do is just give some extra clarity on the announcement that they are going to pump the market with $2.3 trillion of aid. So I'm not sure whether we will stay stationary necessarily. And he may even end up saying, you just don't know. He might even end up saying something that is a bit of a glitch and the market doesn't like, and then it starts to move in the opposite direction. You just don't know. But let's just talk about the approach for right now. So the approach for right now is to go with the longs, because that's what we've got going on right now. So we're going to go with the longs. The turnaround point is not going to be on a 15-minute chart, but on an hourly or 4 hourly. I suspect if price comes under the daily pivot and closes down there, that probably starts to change people's sentiment in the market, and we probably start moving to the downside. But for right now, we're looking for higher. We're looking to move up. So waiting for the announcement and checking out the price action will be great. But let's just think about this in structural terms. If it goes below here, we'll liquidate the longs. And otherwise, actually, we're going to do nothing, and see if it actually does start to move a bit higher. My only thing with all this, the only caveat is what to do at the end of the day. Because if the market has exploded to the upside, by the end of the day, that would suggest that we really are. And in fact, let's think about it a different way. If the market has exploded to the upside, but still not quite hit these specific important levels, that area and that key area, this is the area we're at right now. So really, if we're looking at this on a daily chart, the next point it needs to jump to is probably around here. Now, I may find another level in a little while, but let's say that this is what we're looking at. This level here or the gap. Now, if it hasn't got to this point and yet we close the day out with the market, let's say, I don't know, 100, well, that'd be 170 pips, a couple of 100 pips higher, which would be amazing. So we get to 6,000 by the end of the day. Then the challenge that it comes in, what do you do next? Because if the market is hot, the likelihood is that we either gap up again or we get to this level or we get to this level. So do you liquidate? Now, my approach during this particular period is to liquidate at the end of each week, because I don't really want to be holding on to a market which I believe is bearish, I believe should be going down, and I don't know what it's going to be, which is going to tip the balance. The data isn't good, but people seem to be ignoring that. We just had unemployment claims in the United States, which were near 7 million, to be fair. I mean, 6.6 million, it's not too far from the 7 million mark. But that hasn't pushed it down because we just had the Fed come out and just add a whole bunch of stimulus. So if there's no negativity over the weekend, the likelihood is we then just continue to roll to the upside. But my issue is we got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for, I don't know, possible return to an outbreak in Europe or return to an outbreak in,
too much can happen.
A lot can happen, yeah. So it's it's a little bit tenuous in this area, but by the end of the day. So what I'll be doing personally is, depending on where we are, And when I say depending on where we are, you know, the trade may have come out before the end of the day. But if it's going beyond this high and it's still above this high and floating out wherever it is, I will close my trade, and then I'll come back on Tuesday. And if I've got to hop into a long again on Tuesday, that's what I will do. But otherwise, I'm just going to enjoy the rest of the day, close up the trade, look for this target, close the trade there anyway, if it gets there, regardless. If it gets to 62, well, let's call it 6,300, I'll close the trade anyway. That's a long way up, but anything can happen the way that markets have been. If it gets to this point, I'm definitely closing up, and I'll probably even put a short in the market at that point. But I suppose more significantly, but if we get to this point or just a little bit higher, by 9 o'clock tonight UK, I'll be shutting this market down and closing up and taking whatever I've got as profit, if there is anything there. So that's the way. Now I was going to just quickly, mate. I know you probably want to get to some charts because it's the half hour. In fact, do you want to do that first? Have you got anything pending?
Yep. Let's do it, and we come back to you.
Okay, great. And then
I don't know if we're going to find too much, but we'll have a little crack anyway.
Have a little look around, and then I will. I'll discuss about the RSI for Avinda.
Okie dokie. I was listening to Andre Bocelli before I came on. It just sticks in my mind, that song.
Yeah, lovely track, mate. Lovely track.
Absolutely. And yeah, the good news is we'll be able to play some music, isn't it? Not
absolutely, yeah. So next week, not next week, the week after, we'll be on Zoom, and we will be. In fact, maybe we'll start next week. But next week, we're thinking about having a little introduction song. So anybody's got any suggestions about what songs they'd like to hear? We will play requests. We probably won't do it while we're talking about trading, but we might do it just before the show starts or as the show's ending or whatever, so we can play some requests next week.
As long as it's Elvis, everything will be okay, guys. All right, you've got my chart. Okay, look, we're getting fairly close to this take profit level on pound Aussie. They're about 30 pips away from there. I'll just continue to watch this, and if it looks like turning around, I will take that profit. But if it doesn't hit here, I want to know why. Something's gone wrong if that's the case. If you're not in this trade, there's no way in the world I'd be wanting to get into this trade right now until we hit the target levels that I have set, which is pretty much, I have to go to the hourly chart so you can see that, which is pretty much the bottom of this range, right? From that point forward, it gets a little bit more interesting, but I'm looking very much for break, retest, re-enter, short, but nothing to trade right now. Euro Aussie's having a little bit of a break at this point here. No surprises there. It is a support level after all. And if I'm completely honest, this is a danger point. Why? Because of this spike here. And if you think the way and I know there's nobody thinks the way I think, but what I imagine things, right? And you guys, by the end of staying with Ash and me for probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, you'll be thinking, God, they're nuts, these blokes. But that's okay. So I see symmetry.
And accurate.
Whenever I see a potential reversal, right? And this one's going a little bit slower than the left side was going up. But when we're going up the left side, I imagine that we're coming down the right side in pretty much the same fashion. So you would expect a little bit of a pause here. We got a little bit of a pause here. You would expect a little bit of a pause here. We're getting a little bit of a pause here. I don't know how long that will last. But then, and you can see where I've got my target at the next pause level. That is a take profit area for me, as is the next one, because it is a former resistance level. The show's over pretty much when I get to here, because that sequence, if you like, of going up and coming down should at that point be very close to being over. It may last and go right to the bottom of this range again. If it does, I mean, it could explode up to the 1.98 or whatever. Of course it could, but this is how pretty much I trade. I imagine what's going to happen on this side as we reverse will be very similar to what's happened on that side. So nothing to do there on Euro Aussie. Pound CAD, I actually like the fact that we've hit the weekly pivot here, or all but hit the weekly pivot. Let me see what that looks like. Yeah, it's interesting because of this. I'll show you why. Because this is a breakout of this resistance trend line, trade line, if you like. I would much prefer to hit the weekly pivot and then come back off it, but we're sneaking below here, or are we? This will be very interesting at the top of the hour. If there's a close below the trade line, I'll be thinking potential false break. If there's no close below the trade line, I'll be thinking potential double bottom, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So that will be a very interesting close in 15 minutes time. And we'll have a good look at that on pound CAD. CAD Swissy, well, we know not on this platform, but on another, we are still in this trade. I actually closed this CAD Swiss on Saturday morning of last week, I think it was. That wasn't a great decision. Anyway, we're not far from there at the moment. And in fact, we're pretty close to, well, let me go to the chart so I actually know what I'm talking about. CAD Swiss, this gap area, that was the interesting part. This candle here was interesting as well. Closed the gap, but we really haven't done too much since. And that, of course, is a whole lot to do with what's happening with oil. So, and that's still going to be the case. Oil rallies, so does this one. But there's no trade there until that happens, in my humble opinion. You could speculate, of course, as to what might happen with oil, but that's all it would be, I think, at this point. Well, not so much. You can have an opinion, of course, and I do. And my opinion is that the OPEC meeting should be a positive thing for oil. Surely they've got to be sitting down and saying, well, hey, listen, Harry, we're not making any money here, mate. Let's bring the production down and dry this situation up so we can make some money. Wouldn't they be saying that? You'd think so, wouldn't you?
You would.
I don't know. Sorry, mate.
You would be thinking they're saying that, yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the case, I can see upside for oil, but and therefore the CAD. But if it doesn't happen, then hey. Those of you who were interested in me trading the NASDAQ short, you can cancel that. Well, you can do what you like. As I say, I have cancelled the order short on the NASDAQ until further notice, and maybe never, but we'll see. If I were to see that set up again, then I would probably think of doing same, but I'm not seeing that at the moment. What's the trade we were looking for? Was it? Can't remember. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Let me take a look at this one. Yeah, I think we've got a chance here, guys. We'll see how this candle closes in 12 minutes time. That could well be an entry long because we've taken out the range, basically the small range in here. We've taken it out. We've now come back and retested it. Now, many people would trade that long from here. That's not my style. I'll trade it long from here. Yes, I'll be missing probably 20 odd pips before I get into the market. But to my mind, if you're wrong here, you're wrong, and you'll get taken out. If I'm wrong in my analysis and my entries here and price goes that way, ain't going to hurt me. So that's why I do what I do. Is it the most salubrious, sexy? Profitable way to trade? Well, I'll put a question mark on profitable, because there are a lot of these that I do miss out on getting triggered. So that's why I do what I do, as I said. So I'll be looking at that one in a tick. Swissy yen's exactly the same. I do like the fact that it's taken out this high. It's in a precarious position, however. Why do I say that? Because DR2 is dead ahead. But we might be able to sneak some profit. Depends how big this candle gets. Did I say I didn't want to trade anymore today? That's the one we're looking at, wasn't it? Euro pound. I'm a dead set bear Euro pound, I've got to say. But what the market, or what the chart's telling me, is we've now come back inside the range. And I was looking for a false break signal, which would have been a bearish decisive bar here. Still 10 minutes to go. That still could be the case. Euro yen, look, very similar to what everything's just doing. Everything's just come back and retraced very, very quickly. There's no way I would be trading this one, however, because we are at a strong resistance level and we are at bang on DR2, and I've got no space to take profit at DR2. Remind me, guys, one day to show you why I don't trade above DR2. Dollar yen. Well, we know about my bias on that. We know about the entry that I've got, or the order that I've got in the market. Is there any chance that I would change my... Wow, we nearly got triggered there in that last bar. But not. I like the fact that we didn't, because I don't like to be taken on a bar, with a bar that actually goes a long way, because the very next thing generally that will happen is we'll get a retracement. So if we were to get a retracement here, and you don't like my my order on the 4-hour chart, I think it's a 4-hour chart, might be the daily, can't quite recall. It is the 4-hour chart. Yep. So we're trading this bar here basically. But this looks promising at the moment, dollar yen, for an entry, and we're very close to entry, as I said. You're only 3 pips away, so that may trigger. Aussie yen, I just have to continue to say buy the dips, guys. If you see decent retracements on the Aussie, just buy it. I can't do that at this point, I've got to say, because I've got an untested daily pivot below me, so that will always shy me off from trading away from that. So I think maybe there is some retracement yet to come, and if there is, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Aussie Swissy the same, Aussie CAD the same, because there's no way I can just jump into the market here long. Again, untested daily pivot, we're above the first resistance level, and so be it. Pull back, get back to the daily pivot. So, mate, no new entries yet, but gee whiz, there are a few more possibilities than I anticipated about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So at the top of the hour, we'll make some decisions.
Well, it's a tough one, actually, isn't it? Because the top of the hour is going to be right on top of when Jerome Powell starts speaking, and I wonder whether we just hit a little bit of sleepy time between now and then, or not. It's difficult to know, isn't it? The market is certainly running pretty hot right now, anyway. So we will, I guess, leave things as they are and see what develops. I am interested to see what Jerome Powell says, and just to see whether the market, whether it does actually change any sentiment. I doubt it will, but I think everybody needs to be aware that it is, it's a significant speaker that we're about to have due out. So he might well leave the market in a little state of quiet for a small period, and then all of a sudden just explode. So we've got to be kind of careful about what's about to happen as well. But the day isn't done yet, mate. Things could easily turn around at any point. We just don't really know. But if we continue to trade safe, we should be all right.
Is on edge and ready to go at the drop of a hat. It really is showing signs of life. There's no doubt about that. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. John, thank you for your comments. It's really very nice to read and to hear. Funnily enough, it is very rewarding to hear that, because we're not just here for our own benefit. We're hoping to help you guys out. That's part of the deal. And if that's getting through, then we're very, very pleased about that. And thank you for your comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravinder's saying, "Oh, you can send us some music, John. We'd be more than happy to play your music. We can actually play your stuff on YouTube if it's not licensed, but we will even play it in the Zoom show as well. We'd love to play some original stuff from some of the listeners. That'd be brilliant. Yeah, just quickly as well. Ravinder's just talking about the journal, which we haven't got to, mate, and I think we're going to run out of time. I've got my journal, but it's on my laptop, and I've now managed to get my PC in a better place. I wonder whether we should properly prepare the journal on Monday while we've got the day off, and then come in with it on Tuesday, because it is going to be important, isn't it?
I just put up. Okay, I just put up the journal so far. I'll show you that when you. Oh, there it is. There, you can see it.
Okay.
I also just put up a spreadsheet of my bank account. Shouldn't do that.
The journal so far, brilliant.
I actually got to send it to somebody, and I'm trying to blank it out, so I'm cheating. So there's the journal, guys. That's why we haven't shown it to you yet, because it's still under construction. But I really actually wanted to show you how we build it. And really, this is just a blank that I've drawn up so far. What we will do as we go along is probably add columns to this as we go. But at the moment, that's kind of my go-to spreadsheet that I use. Sorry, that I should use on my own accounts. I do use it, but there's generally a year between each trade. Every time I come back in January, I think, right, journal, got to get that journal going.
Yeah.
And on the 2nd of January, I struggle. But, in the early days, that was not the case, because I religiously did look at it. And it's amazing the difference that it will make to your understanding of what you're actually doing.
Yes.
Because don't think you can remember this. You just cannot remember this. No way. You have to go back and look, and then understand what has actually occurred by pretty much these two columns are very important, and that's something that you need to really get into a habit of doing. Getting close to the top of the hour, and I better make a decision on. Still can't close that, but yeah, I'm getting closer. Make a decision on these positions. Pound CAD's interesting. As I said, I don't have an entry here, but it does look bullish if this closes above the trend line or trade line. CAD Swiss is a no. CAD Yen is a definite potential, definite potential entry. I'll actually get that ready.
Just quickly for PL. Yes, it has broken to the upside. You're right. The pound yen has broken to the upside. Looks very similar actually to what's going on with the stock market, where we are getting a bit of relief long, but we've got to be careful because just like the stock market, it's a longer term short. So whether we just wait and see if there's a short opportunity around about the 138.35 level, or trade up to that level, which is 300 pips away at the end of the day. But what would be really good, if you're not in trades at this stage, I wouldn't be getting involved until you get the pullback that you want. And the pullback is probably on the pound going to be somewhere around about 134. 134.50, maybe 133.80, something like that. That looks like a decent area to try and get back into the pound yen long. At this stage, it looks like it may be on the cruise, and it might be one of those things that if you do trade it, then you trade it on the shorter term time frames and keep stops tight. But it's difficult. When the market's moving already, very difficult to get into it. It's very, very, very nerve-wracking to get into it, because you might end up picking a point where it's just about to turn and then it comes back down and you could have got a better price. But certainly the way that the FTSE looks, and yes, the way that the pound yen looks, it looks like it might be on the cruise to the upside. I mean, on the hourly chart, 135.36 looks like an entry position on the pound yen. Let's wait for Jerome Powell to speak, because he may well change things around. For some of these positions, as I say, unlikely. But what he may well do, even if he doesn't turn it around, what might happen is we might get a dip while he's speaking, and then we can start looking for more upside. So if you're not in already, I'd wait until he's finished, and then get back involved.
Yep. Shouldn't make too much difference to CAD yen, but the thing that is making a difference to CAD yen now is the candle's getting a little bit ugly. It's getting a little bit too large for me to get interested in. I do like the fact that it's retested the daily pivot, but here's the equation. Actually, I moved my entry above this one, not that one. Entry to stop loss, which now has to go underneath the daily pivot in realistic terms, is 42 pips. Reward 17, 18 pips, 15, 16 by the time you get in there with the spreads. It's not a good trade for risk to reward, so I'm not going to take it. It doesn't mean I don't think it can go. That means it's a poor risk to reward trade. That's what it means. This one, what does the hourly chart look like? I think I know. Yeah, dodgy. It's amazing, it really is amazing. You want a certain candle and you get something completely different that changes in the last minute or so. This is exactly the same trade. I'll see if there's a better one. Exactly the same as the candle I just looked at. These are all the same trade, guys, basically. So I'm just looking at the best way to take this, and I'm not seeing anything I like, I've got to be honest. Oh, how did that look on the 30-minute chart? Yeah, if that comes back and you want to get in early, a little bit earlier on this one, there's probably an entry underneath that bar. I'll leave mine where it is on the 4-hour chart. Aussie yen hasn't come back enough. Aussie Swiss hasn't come back enough. Aussie CAD hasn't come back enough. And Aussie Kiwi also hasn't come back enough. So it really comes down to, do I really want to risk a candle like that? And what is my reward to risk here? Actually, this one's not that bad, apart from the fact that you've got to take profit here. So you want about 10 pips of profit. 35. Your next reward is better than 1-to-1. Yeah. I really don't need to take risks that I don't think are great, guys. So I'm not going to do that. And there's the real reason. The real reason is we're in a range here. So the way I would prefer to trade this is as a lower high, short, not long. So that's why I'm not going to take that one. CAD yen, look, again, the candle's too big. Otherwise, it's okay. This one's also interesting. Those of you who know my strategy or my candle patterns will recognize that as a potential entry long. But you see these two bars that precede this one? They are very ugly bars. I call that the cactus or the prickly pear. And we don't touch the prickly pear because it hurts. Just let me assess that. That one's a bit better. We've come off the bottom. This is a potential higher low. We can have a crack at that one, guys. CAD Swiss, there you go. Again, oil dependent. So if you're thinking that oil's going to crash, then you probably don't want to be in this position. This is extremely low risk. And the reason it's extremely low risk is because the market is a little bit jittery. It is Good Friday tomorrow, and the market is likely to do anything at the moment. It's not a market to be, and Ash has just said it, it's not a market to be messed with, especially on small time frames. So the reason I'm taking this is because I see the bottom of the range and I see a higher low here, and I've got enough reward to take us to the top of the range, if you like. And if it does go on, as I think it can, again, dependent on oil, I think we've got a good chance of making some dough. So let's do it. 69.32 will be the entry level. Stop loss will be, my goodness, now it's running away on us. Yeah, too far. Okay, I just made up my mind, guys. We don't want to trade that candle at all. Are we in news now?
Yeah, Jerome Powell's just speaking now, mate.
Ah, okay. Sorry, I thought that was an hour away. All right, that's made up my mind. I don't want to trade anything on the 30-minute chart, guys. Sorry about that. I thought we were an hour away from news. Ash is obviously across that broadcast and having.
Yeah, I'm just listening to it now, and he's just kind of going through the fact that there's likely to be much higher unemployment and everything else, but he hasn't said anything that will bring the market down necessarily. So any pullbacks will probably still be swallowed up, I would have thought.
Yep, guys, those of you who are in the pound Aussie trade with me, really, you're now about 20 pips away from that second target level. Highly recommend that you think about taking something off the table very soon. And that should end a very, very nice week for anybody who's traded pound Aussie. Do whatever you want with your stops, keeping mine at entry. And I will stay in this over the weekend now, but I'm taking a good chunk off here and banking it. Euro Aussie hasn't quite got the same proximity to the take profit area, but I wouldn't be against you taking profit here either, because we are at a support level. It may bounce, but that's entirely up to you guys. Pound Aussie is the one I really want to get money in the bank, because that target was extremely obvious to me, and I do want to do that. The pound itself, yeah, it's come off a bit. No surprises there. Why? Because we hit that high. So we've hit the top of the range. I probably should have considered taking a little bit more off the table at that point, but I didn't. So I probably missed that opportunity. If we get back there and look like hesitating again, maybe I'll do that. But yeah, it's a tough call. It's a consideration. I'm not going to say I'm going to do it. I'll watch the market, and I'll watch it on a smaller time frame. And if we do look like hesitating there or turning around, then that's probably a good counsel. But I don't see any reason that this can't just continue going. They're pretty strong bars there. And the biggest bars on the chart are all bullish bars. So, yeah, it looks to be on fire, to be fair. Maybe worth, and certainly by tomorrow, I will definitely move my stop up to maybe even underneath the swings and lock in some profit straight away. See how we go. So, guys, that's pretty much where I'm at. And I don't think I've got anything more to say for the week, except for those of you guys who do celebrate it, have a lovely Easter. Those of you who don't, but have some time off, then enjoy your time off. And we won't be back on Monday because of the holiday, but we will, of course, be back on Tuesday, where we'll do it all again. And if you haven't got, there it is, as I have a look at this, if you haven't joined the free Telegram group yet, there is the address for that. If you just go to there and join up, It's totally free and lots of comments in there as always. There are probably 10, 12 traders actually contribute to that. So I highly recommend that you join the Telegram group, which is found at that address. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you, Kumar. Thank you, PL. Thank you, everybody who's been along on the show with us all week. Is this our first week doing this? It is.
First week. Yep.
Gee whiz, time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
It does, mate.
Ash, mate, unless you've got more to do, I've pretty much wrapped up. And
I'm wrapped up, mate. I'm seeing the FTSE take a bit of a dive to the downside as Jerome Powell's speaking. He's just about to take questions now. Looks like it could be a buying opportunity, but let's make sure we wait for the right signals. If this market is going to go long, could turn on a penny, as I said earlier on. But he hasn't said anything negative. I haven't heard him say anything negative. So far, looks like the market still looks like it could get buoyed up here.
Okay, mate. Thanks for the week. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy your family. Hope you get some time to spend with them.
You too, and enjoy your Easter egg hunt.
Yes.
You'll be on a Easter wine hunt.
Well, I know where the wine is. It's in the fridge. The red wine's in the cellar, but the white wine's in the fridge. And it's getting ready. It's getting. In fact, I don't think I'll be going too much further without one.
Without one of those.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. It's just I want to echo what he said as well. Appreciate all your inputs. We're looking very likely at a market which is going to go long here, but Jerome Powell speaking could just jerk this around a little bit, and it may even change the picture, but it's got to come down quite a way to do that. So stick with the longs for right now. If you're in and you're managing, great. If you're not, wait till he's finished speaking, and then if you can hop on board, then do so. But stay safe, guys. Have a great weekend. Great Easter. You too, buddy. And I will see you on Tuesday, I guess. Same trade time, same channel. At 5 to 8.
That's a date. Don't be late. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.